Well, let's get going.
Okay, Councillor Reitman, you may go ahead.
All right. Well, welcome to all of you. This is what's called the penultimate meeting of the committee, the second last. And yeah, and welcome to all our fans far and wide. So the very first item on our agenda is the budget update. And is that you, Tammy, that wants to talk about that, or is that Thomas?
I can talk about it. It's
Okay.
at this point, it doesn't look like that there's too much come out of the budget for this year. I know there'll be some items forthcoming, probably with plaques and all that sort of stuff. I don't believe some of the expenditures have come out yet. Maybe Thomas knows more about that, where we are with plaques and the utility boxes and all that sort of stuff. Any of those expenditures. I'm just trying to, the budget was $23,450 and there's, so far there's 2,700 that's come out. So there's still a bit to come out.
Yes, clearly.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that there are still some plaques that have not been paid for in that amount.
And then I guess, I don't know about the photographs and stuff like that, if they're the awards and stuff like that, there might, whether that's this year or next year. So, oh, Thomas, you have your hand up.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, so there's a couple of things that's still going to be charged to the Heritage budget. For the Heritage Awards, we've got some additional advertising expenses that we might need to move things around. So we'll need to get the committee to approve that tonight. We'll still have the photographer for the Heritage Awards that'll likely come out for this year. We have plaques, so there's another order for plaques for 2022 that's out there. We've mailed an invite to receive a plaque to all of our non-plaqued listed properties, and I think I've got 5 or 6 back so far, so $400 a piece, so it adds up pretty quick. And of course we have the Allendale art project that the committee had committed $5,000 to from that budget. And I believe there's supposed to still be a transfer for those utility boxes, Tammy. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but we've given that information over. So I don't know if that's been charged. So yeah, there's going to be a few items still. The biggest one being the Allendale project and the plaques, because I'm assuming, or I'm figuring that together, it's going to be around $10,000 just for those 2 items. So the plaque deadline is September 30th. So we're still waiting on, still another 15 days or 16 days or so until that deadline passes or comes to us. And the awards themselves, it's not going to be more than $1,000 for all of that for this year. There'll be another expense for getting them put together and framed. That'll be out of the 2023 budget.
Yeah, so it sounds like we have some substantial expenditures yet, but at the same time, it looks like we're going to have a bit of money left over in our budget. So that's always a good thing. And I guess what we've spent as well is for the awning and the tint and that kind of thing. Has that come out of the budget already?
Yes, David submitted a receipt for the tent and some tables, if I recall, and hopefully he got paid for that. Did you got paid for that? I submitted that invoice. Okay.
Okay, all right. So it looks like from a budget point of view, we're in pretty good shape. Any other discussion on the budget?
I'll just interrupt and see if you can hear me. It's Shelley that's on the line.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
No, there's no discussion. I just wanted to let you know that it's me that's on the line.
All right, we've got you figured out. Okay, have a good trip. Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, So one of the things that we talked about and I sent a note about was some additional foam boards. And wondering, I have no idea, like, do we need to put a budget figure in how much those cost to do photos on the foam boards?
Yeah, my understanding is
That would
that
be-
they're pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
And we can probably cover them in the budget without any difficulty.
Right.
And I guess the question becomes, how many do we need, and do we need more for our display at the farmer's market and an open air Dunlop? Because that season is kind of coming to an end too.
Right. But there are things that we could use in future, like for future. So, do we want 2 or 3 or maybe 4? How many would we like? And we can discuss that later, I guess, but if we can put that on the agenda for next time, maybe.
Okay. Thomas, you have your hand up, I see.
Yes, I did forget one significant item being the new booklets, new walking tour, or sorry, we stopped calling them walking tour booklets, the new historic neighborhood tour booklets. And I'm just, because we've had a number of quotes, I'm trying to figure out what the actual number was, and I have it from Susan. If you just give me 1 second. $3,636 plus tax. So that's for an order of 2,000 booklets. So that's going to be coming out of this budget as well.
So we're
The
working
costs
hard
may
on-
go down a little bit if we get some sponsorship from local businesses and whatnot, but that's the worst case scenario, essentially.
Okay, sounds like we're gonna use a fair chunk of that budget. Tammy?
Do you want, was there an expenditure put through for that already, committee approval?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Or do you want to wait till next meeting?
I would defer to the
Hey.
chair, but my recommendation was let's get it on the books now. Same with the
Yeah.
advertising funds for the Heritage Awards.
Yeah, so I think so too. Do we have a consensus that we go ahead with the what we used to call the walking tours, booklets, and also the other expenditures as well? Yeah, looks like we got thumbs up all around. Great.
So the walking tour booklet's up to how many, like $3,600 or 3,700?
I think that's what Thomas was talking about, more or less.
Plus tax, right?
Or up to 4,000?
Maybe.
Sure, let's go to 4,000. That'll cover it.
And then what about the advertising? How much was that for?
Thomas, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, that makes a whole lot more sense. It was 3,218 plus tax equaling 36,34. So if we put
30.
$3,600,
Yeah.
I can message you the exact amount, Tammy, if you want.
Okay. And then the advertisement, if you want to message me that amount too, I can't
Yes,
remember.
I will do. I believe it was like $360. And I also believe that the committee had upped the Heritage Awards budget for this year to cover the advertising costs already
We did.
earlier on in the year. So I think we're okay in that.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion on the budget? Kathy?
I had also asked at some point about a videographer and whether we had access to a city videographer to do some work in a couple of the houses, our designated homes that have approved to have that done if we'd like to. But I'm not sure whether we have access to the city videographer or whether we would have to hire an outside videographer and what that cost might be.
Well, Thomas, do you have an answer for that? I would think we should be able to get the city videographer to do that, but
I can, let me get back to you on that, Kathy. I apologize, I have not. But we can look into that, and we always have room for the next next meeting to see if we can get some money out of that, and if we need to.
yeah. All right, let's put that on the next agenda, and we will deal with it then. Okay, any more? Craig?
Yeah, The one thing I was talking with Thomas about was there was some street signs, heritage street signs that weren't done. And then I suggested some that could be done. Is that going to happen?
Thomas?
So Craig, I did get back to you, and the streets that you're referring to are not in a historic neighborhood and recognized in city's policy framework or land use policy, because they were all in Tollendale or Tollendale. So yes, I don't understand that it is an old neighborhood, historic neighborhood, but in terms of city's policies, it's not. So we don't have a design for them. You know how all the other ones have historic, whatever. I mean, it's a pretty simple process, but I don't know what effect it would have to be getting historic street signs for neighborhoods that are not recognized as historic neighborhoods. You might have people in other areas of the city saying, well, we're old or historic too. And then it just kind of snowballs. So
yeah, but you asked me if I'd send you other streets like that were not, because we're not doing those.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, can you send me 3 or 4 streets that weren't done? And so I thought I sent an email. There's like a couple of streets, so I don't know if you got it.
Okay, no, I apologize for that, Craig. I don't recall that.
Okay.
Fine.
Fine.
I thought that we had done those streets that you had identified, but if you could please follow up with me and let me know what other ones. Sure. Were they in Allendale or were they somewhere else?
Yeah, there's just a few streets that were kind of missed here and there, and and so I just sent an email saying here are some ones. So if we could take what we were going to do in those places and do it in other places.
I think we should be able to, if it's just a couple of additional streets in Allendale or an existing historic neighborhood, it should be okay because they're not too expensive to do. It's when we start doing, you know, like 13 or 15, 16 different intersections, that's when the costs add up. But if it's 2 or 3, then we should be okay.
All right. So Craig and Thomas, if you could get together on that, and then by next meeting we can sort of figure that out. Shelley, I wonder if you could put yourself on mute because we're getting a fair bit of feedback from you. Kathy, go ahead.
I'll try and do that.
It was really just a quick question. Thomas, do you know whether city staff moved the Gowan Street, historic Gowan Street sign at the corner of Gowan and Bayview? It's not on the post anymore, but it's across the road on a pole.
I wouldn't know that, Kathy. No.
Okay, so I will send a note to the city and ask that question tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. You can go through me or you can go Service Barrie.
Yeah, I'll
might be faster.
I'll go to Service Barrie. They've been good at responding fairly quickly, so that's not a problem.
They're very good.
All right, good. All right, let's move on then to the Barrie Farmers Market and the open air Dunlop. First of all, I got to say to David, thank you for all your organizing efforts. That has been very helpful. Thank you ever so much. All right, it's an item on our agenda. What do we need to discuss about it? Sarah, yes.
I didn't put it on the agenda, but I did have a couple of things to talk about, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think that the farmers market went really well just because people seem to be a bit more local there. Like we were getting a lot of people who live in the city that were happy for it. So I think that was a good addition to our arsenal. We did have a few people talk to us about the tax credit, tax relief. So I did a bit of research into that. And I know that perhaps we are delving into a different agenda item. So maybe that's something that we could put onto the list for next meeting. But there is a fair bit of information out there and there's a fair bit of guides, and it seems like an easy thing that if we could convince the city to do it, it would be awesome. And I know that Kaylee's having a ton of trouble trying to get on to this meeting. She has trouble with the audio and whatnot. Anyways, but what she was saying is that they were getting some comments and suggestions, especially ones about moving the farmers market, that people were unhappy that it's moving. And so she was just sort of wondering, what's the plan? Like, is there something that we can do to help these people out? Because people often come to us with a comment or a concern, and then we kind of go, oh, we'll take that under advisement. But, you know, is this something where we say, okay, talk to your counselor, or we will take it back to committee and try and do something with it? Do you go, you know, for the one specific to the farmers market, do you then go to the head of the farmers market and say, please don't move your market? Because we have a lot of people, you know, trying to tell us not to move it because it's in the historic location, which kind of involves us then when you're talking about history. But I think it was just sort of generally, there's a lot of suggestions, questions that we get, and where do we collect those and go forward with them? I think that was what she was trying to say.
Well, all right. I guess maybe what we should do is just sort of say, call your counselor. That's what I do when my wife is complaining. I don't know. Is the farmers market actually moving? And I know that there's talk about you know, a permanent farmers market, but that's a few years away yet. So I'm kind of thinking. I'm just wondering, and I think, frankly, it is a bit outside of our scope here as a heritage committee. So I'm more inclined to say, you know, talk to the manager of the farmers market and discuss it with them. That would be my thought. David.
Yes, thanks. I just had a couple of comments on the market and open air. And I do get the feeling that we did like the market better than open air. Open air is continuing through to the end of October. For the market, what I would recommend next year is to get ahead of that schedule early in the year and try and maybe get the market manager to give us the full season and look at certain dates. The June has a community date, which we missed, which would have been really our best date. But perhaps even more than month to month, a little bit of planning ahead would get us at the market, you know, reliably. Also, she has cancellations. And in fact, our last market date, she slotted us in somewhere where we were sort of around the corner. So if dates should come up in the future or the committee would like to be there, quite often she can watch out for a cancellation. Also, there's the year-round effect there too. And our tables are just one table even, it's fairly small. And there might be an opportunity going forward to be indoors. And of course, I'm just at City Hall for now, during the winter. Other than that, I think they've been very successful, and thanks everyone for your participation in those events this year. It was great. Thank you.
All right. I think that's a very good point. I think we are probably more effective at the farmers market than we are at open air Dunlop. And we should really take your advice, David, for next year and try to line that up more. The other item that Sarah raised is the tax relief matter. And excuse me, council is kind of in this lamed up period at this point, but I think that very early on in the new term, if Councillor Harris and I are reelected, I think that is something that we will definitely put on the table because, and I think what it needs is a staff report to tell us, you know, more or less how much it costs the city. But I would think that it is a tremendous opportunity and a real incentive for heritage conservation. So I'm certainly very interested in exploring that further, and I'm sure Jim Harris is as well. So, all right. Any other items on the, okay, Jim, go ahead.
The other members need to make sure they apply to the members of Heritage Barrie next time, whether you and I are elected or not. You
know what? Absolutely. I think this committee could go ahead without us, but we definitely need everybody to reapply and to put your best foot forward to be reappointed. All right. Any other comments on the farmers market? Kathy, go ahead.
Am I on mute or unmuted?
No, we can hear
okay. I would definitely agree with you, Councillor Ritma, that the Barrie Farmers Market Manager is the one to refer if people are asking, especially about that, because he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was involved in the last presentation that was done about the Barrie, about the bus terminal and the potential for things to move ahead over time, but it is going to be several years. And so he is very knowledgeable. So I think if people just refer to the market manager, then that's great. I think also certainly the number of times, and I've only been once this year to Open Air Dunlop, we were quite successful because we had a number of people talk to us, and I have to provide them information about how to do research on their homes and also listing. So I think we ended up with 4 contacts, one of which was a mural artist that has actually done a mural on a wall 22 years ago with the city with funding from the Molson group. And so we have his card and we have his information as well. So I think, both are good. And from the market's perspective, previously, they only allow community groups up to a maximum of 3 dates. So I don't know whether they've changed that, and maybe they would for us, which would be great. And as far as the tax relief program is concerned, would we, in the new term of council, would we need to, through Heritage, then have a motion go forward asking staff to investigate a tax relief program for designated properties?
Yeah.
Is that how we would handle it for those of us who may still be on council?
Well, it could go one of 2 ways. It certainly could come as a motion from this committee, and then it would go up through general committee and council. Or the other way to do it would be to just come as an item for discussion from the councillors themselves. So either way would work. And yeah, it would work fine. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, and we won't solve this tonight, but fair question, Kathy. We can put it on, obviously, on the radar for next council and next committee. But the next iteration will probably go through Finance Corporate Services because they created a new bit of a flow for items for discussion. So, but it's a money issue. So I would think it would go to Finance Corporate Services, then get debated there, and then move to council for ratification. So definitely, all those of us who are around in the next, I guess, 3 or 4 months, will be able to move that forward, hopefully very nicely.
And just as an aside, we gave lots of coloring pages away to the kids on the weekend at Open Air Dunlop. So one little girl came and she couldn't have been 3. She wanted every single page. And then she said she wanted the word search. And like, okay, you better give this to your mommy because you're not going to be able to do the word search, but it was cute. So they really enjoyed that.
Yeah, those coloring pages have been a big hit. I think that was it Kaylee or Sarah? One of them that did a great job on that. All right, let's move on to Heritage Awards. Thomas, where are we with that? I guess we're looking for suggestions.
Thank you, Chair. We currently have the nomination period open. It is open till the 30th of September. So anybody watching, get your nominations in by the 30th. We have had lots of support from our comms team. So thank you to the comms team for doing that. There is posters, ads. There was a takeover on Barrie today. It's on TWIB as well. There was an ad in the paper. So we've had lots of press for this. And we will be selecting our winners for the 2022 awards at the next meeting. So I'll have about 2 days to get the nomination packages put together and put in front of the committee. So this committee can pick the awards for giving them out in February 2023 during Heritage Week.
Yep. All right. And if anyone here has some suggestions, pass them on to Thomas, and we'll get them figured out, and then we can deal with it next meeting. Kathy.
Is it okay to ask at this point, Thomas, do you have anything from anyone at this point yet? Maybe you haven't put the packages together, but do you have anything?
I actually don't at this time. I haven't heard anything.
Okay. And I have reached out to two addresses, one of which Deb had reached out to previously, and both had said not at this time because they're in the process of doing restoration work, and they want to wait really until they're finished that, and then they will apply. So it won't be this year for sure for a couple of them that I was hoping for.
Okay.
One maybe maybe we should think about is the Bohemia building that we are in the process of designating. So that might be one suggestion. All right. Any other comments, suggestions on the Sarah? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if now, or sort of maybe this is a next committee thing, to think about how we go about the Heritage Awards. It just seems like most years we get a few nominations from the city, but it's a lot of internal nominations. And is that something we want to kind of look into as something we are okay with continuing on with, because we do know of the heritage in the city perhaps better than, regular citizens, so it makes sense that we would nominate people? Or is it something where perhaps we, you get a counselor that's in the heritage ward, they're responsible for nominating someone from their ward? Is there opportunity to explore sort of how we go about these heritage awards so that perhaps more of the community becomes involved rather than just the committee, even though we do, we are the ones looking at heritage, so it sort of makes sense that we know where it is and who should get an award, but we want to kind of involve the community. But perhaps that's something that we would leave to the next committee, because we're already sort of in the middle of this one.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I would certainly like to see a whole lot more public involvement in it. If we can get that happening, that would be great. And yeah, maybe we could put that on the next committee's agenda and say, see how you could expand our reach that way. Yep. Okay, I think we've covered everything on that subject. Let's go to the Simcoe County Historical Association Conference. Thomas, so I think that's coming up. Or Kathy, did you want to talk about that?
I think it's actually done. It happened. Did it happen on September 10th? Deb, yeah, she's shaking her head. Yeah, That's already happened. So, and I don't believe any of us. Deb, did you go to that? You did go? How was it? Yeah, Deb.
All right. So we had one of our representatives. Is this an annual event? Do we know?
No, it's the first time ever event.
But
it was well received and it went well. It was smallish, and that was due to the museum's restrictions on size. But no, it was a good event, and we'd like to do it again. But it was the first one.
Okay. All right. So, another thing for the next committee's agenda, if it happens on an annual basis, then maybe we could get more involved in it. All right. The walking tour booklets. Thomas.
Thank you, Councillor. I am just making a note here for us to make sure we add this to the committee's agenda for next month, being the discussion of the heritage wards. There will be a whole discussion about the work plan for the 2022 to the 2026 term for the new committee. So at that time, the committee could pick these, all the other sort of events that you want to attend or conferences that the committee members want to attend. So we'll add it on this agenda, but because this committee is going to dissolve in November, it'll be up to the next committee to pick where they want to go. So if you're reapplying, then make sure to bring it up with that new committee. Because I won't be the one hosting the next committee, or the liaison for the next committee, I won't be able to push that along. I'll probably transition a lot of these things, but it's always best if it comes from the committee members themselves. And going back to my actual agenda item being the neighborhood guide, I give you an update, and I actually can show you a version or a draft copy of the actual booklets themselves. If you just give me a moment, I'm going to do this. Just one moment. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. And the purpose of me sharing this today is just to give you a sneak peek of what the new booklets are going to look like. They're still in production, and this is just the one for, this is actually,
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that picture right at the front. Yeah, sorry, got excited.
Yeah, I have to take a moment to recognize how hard Deb has been working on this. Yes, lots of applause for Deb, and for the Simcoe Historical Archive. All the pictures that you're seeing here is either from the Simcoe County Archive or our friends at the Barrie Historical Archive. Sorry, Deb, I'm using the wrong name here. So lots of what you're seeing is coming from there. So it's been a great partnership for this committee to get a lot of these images from that group as well. So the front of the books will probably all look the same. Not the same image, but you'll have the same sort of font and everything will look the same. All of them will have a map in the middle showing all of the historic neighborhoods. This is cut in half because you're only seeing half, of course, and this is the other half of the page. So it'll be open like that. And then as you go along, there'll be a bit of a write-up, which again will appear in every single guidebook as well. It'll have this material in here about designating, listing, awards, and then a bit of a legend of, you'll see these little icons pop up throughout the booklet itself. So this one is for Allendale. Okay, I thought it was downtown, but it's Allendale. So then you have a close-up of the Allendale historic neighborhood, a bit of a description. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because the next committee will be able to go through these in detail and proof them. If we want to do textual edits here and there, we'll be able to make little edits. So this is just to give you a bit of a sneak preview as to where the money's going from this committee. So this is what they'll look like where we can. We, of course, have the historic image, and then we have the contemporary image. We have the little icon demonstrating that it's been designated. We try to put as many pictures as possible.
Nice.
Yeah. Again, this is Deb got all these pictures, uploaded them, and then our design team and part of our communications team has actually put these together and collated them in this way. And of course, the content that you're seeing again has been updated by Deb. Some of it is new content entirely as well, especially for our new historic neighborhoods. So you'll see this one listed, and it's won an award at some point in the past.
Oh,
that's what it is. And near the tail end of each booklet, there will be at least 2 pages that are going to be potentially full of sponsorship. We didn't want to put them all together. We didn't want to have sprinkle them throughout the page, throughout the booklet, just because we thought it was going to detract from the thing itself. So they are going here. And again, our communications team is working hard to secure those sponsorship opportunities, and they're still working on that for us, just as they are working hard to secure some sponsorship for the Heritage Awards. So it'll be for both. And that's the last page. So that is your sneak peek.
Nice.
At the new.
Well done. It looks beautiful, I think.
I think they look great. Absolutely.
That's stunning. And there's, I see new pictures that weren't in previously. I know Deb walked around our neighborhood and took pictures, added pictures, and maybe removed pictures, did some adjusting. And I see some new ones in there and they're great.
Yeah, they're more, some of them are not just newer, but it's also because it's a new, a more current image. The quality of the image is much better. Some of them are a little grainy.
So can you just go down to the one where, nope, keep going. No, go the other way. That building right there, number 5, 8 Essa Road, is the old picture that I showed earlier that you didn't. Hang on one second. I want to show you guys something.
Okay. Maybe I'll zoom in.
So Tina, a Remax real estate person actually contacted me a couple of days ago and told me they were cleaning out their office, and they gave me some prints that they had because she knew that I was into the heritage, and this is one of them. I don't know if you can see that, which is that building.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it's an old historic, it's Mr. It says across the awning, it says J. Webb. And then it's actually Peabody's overalls. So I've got 3 that they've given me. And so we'll have to decide, like Deb, you'll probably want pictures of these for Barrie Historical Archive. If you don't already have these same photos, and we'll decide what to do with them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, we may even want that photo in this brochure. Deb, I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah, I thought there was a question about the date of this particular image. These have all been taken in the last 3 to 6 months. So if there's been any changes, I've noted that to the designer so that, if we want to substitute another property or just, update the picture again, we can do it. But all of these are new within the last.
Number 7 is a new one you put in. That's number 19 Cumberland. That's gorgeous. That house is 137 years old.
All right. Well, it certainly looks like we're moving in very much the right direction here. It looks great. I can't because the screen is being shared. I can't see everybody on the screen. Is there any other comments, thoughts on that?
I don't see any, Chair.
I don't see any. Thank you. That's great work. Great work. So the next item is plaques for designated and listed buildings. Thomas, I'll bet that's yours.
Thank you, Chair. That is me indeed. So this is just an update to the committee as well as anybody watching that we do have the intake period out for plaques for listed buildings. That period is ending in September 30th. Again, coinciding with the end of term for the committee and my sort of departure from the committee. I need to get that order sorted by the 30th. I believe earlier tonight, I said I have about 5 or 6 replies already so far. So anybody watching, please, if you've received an invitation to get a plaque, first of all, your property must be listed to get a plaque, and you would have received an invite from the city in the mail, along with an application form that needs to be filled out and returned to me. So all of the plaques from last year have been installed. There was one individual in Allendale that was still waiting on a plaque, and so theirs was finally installed. So we're all done. Kathy asked me to get a plaque for the committee to show at public events. So we will be getting one of those. I'll probably pick it up next week and stick it in the box along with all the other material that's in there. And that's all I have for the committee tonight, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Kathy.
Thomas, do you know at this point how many have been installed to date? Just curious,
yes, like 17.
17? Oh, wow, that's great. Okay.
Good.
And then I have another question. The equipment that we brought in the other day, It has, obviously, I think it's been moved because otherwise you wouldn't be able to move around in your department.
Yes, somebody, I'm not entirely sure who did it, but somebody had moved everything from the front sort of vestibule area to where it's being kept sort of in our hallway area.
Is there anyone that could stick labels on each of the pieces separately that say just Heritage Barrie? I thought about that after, like each of the blue bins, like just stick a label on it that says Heritage Barrie, so that if stuff becomes, separated, it's not separated. Everything belongs to Heritage Barrie because they're sort of separate things.
Yeah, I might just actually take a black marker and just write on it.
Exactly.
Because otherwise people can just take the label off and it's theirs.
That'd be great.
I'll probably just also stick my business card to it just in case they do end up somewhere, but just because it's moved around a lot, I don't suspect that business card will still survive very long.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you on that one. And then Thomas, the next one is development applications under review, Blake Street. I think that's yours too, Thomas.
It is indeed, Chair. Thank you. So this, we have one item for discussion being 193, 197 Blake Street. The public meeting for this proposal was actually last night. It is for a proposed official plan amendment to redesignate the property from general commercial to residential, as well as they're also seeking a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the property from general commercial to residential multiple density to permit 5 townhouses. So you'll be able to find all the material for the proposed development on our proposed developments webpage, which I'm going to share in just a minute. I just have to switch some screens around because I've got, oops, let me just close that. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I should be sharing the proposed developments webpage. Oh, this is not part one. Let me go back. I had a bit of an IT issue just before we started and everything closed. There we go. So I'm just going to show the key map on the screen just so everybody can see. So this is Blake Street going east and west. This is Nelson Square. So this is where the proposed five townhouses will be. And the purpose for me bringing this to the committee is just because the committee had expressed interest in me discussing this, bringing these applications to the committee for discussion and for the committee to pass me either verbal comments here, or you can also just email me and let me know what comments you have, if any. I've reviewed this property and there's no listed or designated properties adjacent to this site. So there's no studies being required to support the proposed development. Sorry, no heritage specific studies. There's other studies that of course are required. Yes, I'm just going to leave it there and let the committee think on it and ask me questions.
All right, any questions for Thomas?
Thomas, can you bring up, do you have access to a picture of what the townhouses look like that you could show the committee? Because this is where, for those who might not know this area, but might be familiar with the East End, what was it called? East End Variety or East End?
Yeah, it was a East End Variety.
It was like in a restaurant, and then this is what's going into its place. And then the back of this property, that's the front. So that would be facing Dunlop Street?
Blake Street, actually.
Oh, sorry, Blake Street. Yes, sorry. That would be facing Blake.
So that's the one, and I'll throw up the other view as well.
There. So then the houses, or my comment, Thomas, here, and I know, I mean, I think this is fine in a way, but I'm wondering about, like, these are backing on to houses that are bungalow or what do you call that? 1.5 story? And this is looking to be a 4-story, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, 4-story. So does that conform? And I guess it doesn't, it's just that, the balcony, or you're doing balconies off the back, which is nice. People can see out over the lake, but then you're looking into the backyards of these people, and there's what, maybe 4 or 5 houses down Nelson, I think.
Yeah, I think there's 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a planning consideration, Kathy. I would wager to say that because there's no listed or designated property in the area, there's not really, it's not a heritage matter per se.
Right.
I know that this is an older area. Of course, I know this is Kimball Village area. Sort of, or am I getting mistaken? Or is this East End? Councillor Rima, please correct me. But I know this is an area that has some historic built form, but in terms of the transition or lack thereof, that's definitely a matter that the planner on file will have to.
Because I thought at some point, like even when we looked, when planning did a presentation, or the Guelph, I think it was the Guelph students that did the presentation a while ago, and when you first brought planning policies into place, where you talked about terracing the back of a property when it's sort of in a historic neighborhood, to sort of temper the, how big the building is. So if it's backing on to smaller, like, is there anything they can do with that here?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. And it was certainly brought up last night as well in terms of the height of the building. And I guess, Thomas, at this point, I guess it's a little early because it happens more at site plan, but in terms of the design of the building, I'm sure that these are fairly preliminary drawings, but do you get the sense that this is sort of fits into the architecture of the general neighborhood, or what's your thought on that?
That's a great question, Chair. The purpose of this meeting is for me to gather the committee's comments. I don't want to prejudice the application or speak to it and suggest some sort of planning opinion of my own. I'm just here to listen to the committee. But what I'm hearing is that there's some potential concern on your end in regards to that matter. But I don't want to, because planning staff haven't written a planning report, and I don't want to, in a public forum, sort of express an opinion that file manager may not agree with it or something like that. So I'm going to be hesitant and hold back in terms of my opinion. I hope you can understand.
Yeah, I certainly understand. And I guess, beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. It is a historic neighborhood, although there's nothing designated here. So just, and of course, across the street, you have sort of these sort of long-standing kind of commercial garages and whatever else goes on there. And they're no architectural marvel either. But I'm just, I think it'd be interesting to see what your planners say about sort of the architectural design in terms of how it complements the historic neighborhood, if you will. Any other comments, Kathy?
Yeah, and I wondered, I don't think within this presentation you have like what the houses on the other side, like I know there's Nelson Square Park, I think, or St. Vincent Park. It's a park across the street.
Yes,
but
it's Nelson Lookout is on the other side of the street.
Yeah, going down further on Blake Street, typically in all of these neighborhoods, whether they're listed or designated, parking is not in the front, it's in the back. So is there, how, I mean, all of a sudden you've got, cars parked at the front and the rest of the street going down, people are, they have driveways that they're driving their cars down, and it's not parked right at the, almost right at the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way they could put the garages at the back?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And have more of the green, like I know the back is like, I think it's a little patio space or green space in the back. But if they're having the upper balconies, then they could have the green space out front and have the parking around back. I don't know. I mean, I know that's a whole architectural redesign, but That would be my thing.
Okay, thank you,
All
Karen.
right. Any other comments? And again, the screen is being shared, so I can't see
Sorry.
everybody. So just
Sorry.
holler out.
Yeah, Sherry, I have my hand up, but people have their,
Okay, Jim.
their mics up. It's hard to get in. So I mean, great comments. And thank you, Thomas, for trying to direct us. I mean, we're not here to make general planning comments. And I thank you for being patient with us, Thomas. And those who know the area well can easily walk down Blake Street and see apartment buildings that are brick and very relatively uninspiring, and across the road see wonderfully heritage homes. So it's a really eclectic area. So, but on the items that relate to a heritage related decision or comment, am I clear that what you're advising us is that there's really no heritage component concern related to what is currently there, and therefore there's really no where they put the garages and where they put the balconies, it's not a heritage item. So is it really about the buildings that are really there now, which have been kind of pretty much left to go? Am I accurate on that?
Yes, you're pretty close on that, Councillor. There is a listed property across the street, sort of kitty corner to the property in 186 Blake. We didn't foresee any impacts of the proposed development having directly on that property, and it's not adjacent. No studies were requested to evaluate impacts in that regard. And while this is an old neighborhood in Barrie, it's not technically a historic neighborhood in the official plan. It is in the new adopted official plan. And if that official plan was in effect, there would be some additional policy checks that the applicant would have to tick. But as it is right now, it's just another older neighborhood in the city of Barrie. So my main sort of thrust of putting this before the committee was just recognizing that it is in a historic, an older neighborhood, and that there is a listed property on the other side of the street. And I thought somebody might ask me a question about that. So, but there hasn't been a question on that, so I just brought it up. But yeah, there's general comments about sort of like the articulation of the building, the location of parking front, rear, those kinds of things. Well, maybe you're not incorrect in terms of pointing those things out, but they are not something that we can adjust for a heritage sort of perspective focus.
Great, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Thomas.
You're welcome, Council.
Thomas, since you're Mr. Official Plan guy, do you have any idea at this point where the new official plan stands with the province? Have you heard anything back?
I do actually. I can give the committee an update. The province has recently posted the official plan for public consultation on the provincial consultation website called the ERO, or the Environmental Registry of Ontario. So if you Google ERO, and you'll be able to search up City of Barrie official plan, and it's up for a 30-day comment period that I believe is ending on October 10th. So the province is sort of doing their own consultation on our official plan as well as our municipal comprehensive review. So that it's a little bit later. It's quite a bit later than I thought it would be, if I'm honest. Don't know why it's taken so long, given the election was quite a while ago. But
okay, so sorry. So you said it's there until October 10th?
I believe it's October 10th. If you give me just a quick moment, I can actually do a
30-day, and then so anybody could go in and make comment. Anybody from the public can go in and make a comment on it. Okay.
Yep. I'm just showing everything on the screen so everybody can see how you can do it. I'm just doing it the sort of the simplest way possible. Let's see if that returns what we're looking for. I realize we're completely off topic here, and I thank you for indulging me, Chair. But I just want to show anybody watching if I don't know if we're going to have success here just because it's, there it is, first item.
Okay.
Comment period is till October 8th.
So comment period was September to October, okay.
Yeah, September 8th to October 8th. I thought it was the 10th. So if anybody watching, you can click in here and you can scroll down. There's actually instructions of how you can go about submitting comments.
Huh?
Okay, all
Let's
right.
get her done. That's all I want. Let's get her done.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Kathy. Okay, so I did stop sharing my screen. So Chair, I'm not sure if you want to move on to the next item. I don't know if there's much else for discussion here.
Yeah, and for some reason or other, my screen just sort of turned into nothing. All right, let's go then to the Municipal Heritage Registry, the status of that. Hello, is anybody there? I think I have lost it.
I can hear
Oh,
you. I can.
there we are.
I can hear and see you.
Okay, here we are.
My computer is slow, Chair. I was just saying that that is something I can speak to myself just a little bit.
Okay.
So I don't have anything new to bring to the committee at this time. There's been no submissions made for additions to the Municipal Heritage Register. I believe I did email the committee just today. I believe Kathy had asked me a question about printing new versions of the Heritage Register, which there is a new version of the register. It was updated in February 2022. So it is up there. Sometimes what is happening, we've noticed that when people click on it, due to the size of the file, the download process will actually crash, or it never actually downloads. It was happening to my computer. I know Shelley had problems with it as well in the past. And sometimes when it loads, there's aspects of the thing missing. And what we're running into is basically a bit of a capacity issue with Word document itself. Due to the size of the files, images, and the number of images in the file itself, it's becoming difficult to sort of maintain. And we've had a conversation with our IT team, and their recommendation was to move to a digital version, to a digital only version. So we currently have a digital version of a register, and we're maintaining both a PDF or a Word version as well as a digital version. And I actually inquired from our IT team, is there a different solution or a different medium that we could use other than Word/PDFs in terms of going forward? And there isn't anything that we have corporately that we could use. There is other solutions out there, but they require to be purchased. There's licensing for that and all these other things, which is not in this realm of possibility, I'll be frank. But we do have existing tools available to use, such as ArcMap or Esri, which is basically a mapping tool. And it's what we currently host our register through. But there is also a newer version of this tool coming forward. So our IT team and our GIS team work together to actually develop a new version of the map. And it's still being in development. We are very close to being there. There's still some images missing. There's still some text I have to go in and add, but it'll be basically a shinier, newer version of the current register that's posted. And if everybody recalls, you basically use a scroll on your mouse and you scroll through all the images. It's going to be similar to that, but a little bit better. It's going to have more images. You can click on images separately and things like that. There will be a printable version of the register, but it's going to be basically a table with addresses, dates that the property was listed or registered, as well as the motion numbers or the bylaw numbers. So in terms of the print capability, it's going to be a little tricky. But in terms of the online functionality, it's going to be much more accessible in that way. And I know Kathy had expressed some concern about it not being great.
Did you like that?
I will paraphrase.
Yeah.
But I can understand that from a sort of public engagement perspective, but the committee does have, a good budget. We could buy technology solutions, some sort of Chromebook, iPad or something. People always like using new fancy tech. So we can use that to host those images, or sorry, the actual register. So at public events, we could get people to actually go through and play around with the map themselves. So that's, I apologize for the length of that, but
should we put that on the budget? Should we put this in the budget? How much is a tablet?
It's probably something for next year.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to say that because we haven't launched the new version of the register just yet. The old one is still active. We still have a bit of time, and by
But
the
we want to
time-
use up all our money. We don't want to leave any on the table.
No
I don't
comment.
know. I don't think taxpayers are going to agree with that, but anyway. All right. Anything
That's
more
everything
on
for
the-
me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions about the Heritage Register? Nope. All right. Utility box wraps. Where are we with those? Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. So that's another item for me. The utility box wraps are finalized. They are with the vendor and they're going to be installed momentarily. I do believe the installations are happening as we speak. I'm using air quotes, but they will be happening momentarily. Steve Rose, manager of traffic operations, he did send a sort of a team message to everybody, sort of showcasing the work that we've done to sort of our internal team, and they look very good. And again, I want to recognize Deb and her efforts and the willingness of the Barrie Historical Archive to work with this committee to provide images for that again. So thank you, Deb, for that, and turning it around so quickly, because you picked those images and we made it happen. So it's with the vendor. So it'll be another sort of tangible impact that the committee has had on the community with these once they're installed. I believe that's at Milburn and Burton, and I'm forgetting the second one, but I believe it's on the other side of Milburn in
Bayview.
Allendale.
Burton and Bayview.
I think you might be right.
At Burton and Bayview and Burton and Milburn. I think that's where.
Okay. Well, that's great. I think that, like you say, it's a real concrete example of what this committee has done. And I think that we ought to impress on the next committee that they should carry on with this, and that we need budget items and locations, and to work with our traffic folks to know when they're going to do some of these utility box replacements, and then we can chip in and get involved in that. So I think that's a real priority item for the next years. Any other discussion? Okay, next, the Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award for 2022. Thomas.
Yes, I was just going to say I can speak to that, Chair. So the last year, so this is an annual award. Information about the award can be found on the Ontario Heritage Trust website. I did have it on my screen, but due to my technical issue, everything got closed, so I could navigate it. I could navigate to that page, but it's pretty easy to find under their services and recognition tab on the Ontario Heritage Trust webpage. Deadline for making nomination submissions is October 15th, 2022, so about a month from now. And there's a number of categories that are available to submit nominations for. Last year, the committee chose not to make a submission just because I believe they're fairly involved, these things that you have to put together, and pretty competitive. So I believe that's the reason why this committee didn't have the capacity to do it. So I believe it is before this committee to decide if you want to pursue this opportunity or not.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
I would think that maybe we, again, like Thomas just said, we don't really have the capacity to do this. We don't have the resource. And I think that if I remember correctly from even last year, we would probably really need help from a consultant to write a report.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well. Sarah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just sort of going to say the similar thing, that since it is so involved, maybe that's something that we put again onto the next committee to see if if they look at it at the start of their term, they would sort of get them a longer amount of time, because it does sort of creep up on us, I think, every year. And then we go, oh, we have 2 weeks and we can't get her done. So maybe that's something that we could suggest it's looked at in January. And if there's somebody or a community group that could be nominated, then you have a bit more time to look at it. You have perhaps a bit more time to get other people involved in the helping of it. You know, I'm not sure it's something we should forget about entirely, but perhaps take a different approach to it so it doesn't sneak up on the committee.
Very good suggestion. I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, so that's on the next committee's job jar right away. All right. Well, and that brings me to the end of our agenda, amazingly. Any other major items that we need to cover? All right, well then, we will see you. Kathy, you're waving.
I know I sent this, but for people to look at a couple of articles, and then also the picture of the train station and the fire truck of the old at Firehouse Subs. I don't know if people had a chance to have a look at that, and wasn't really what I was expecting, but you know, because I think they got pictures from Simcoe County Archives. But I think they took sort of liberty with it, and that's what they do with their Firehouse Subs everywhere. So it's got our train station in it, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, be happy with what you get, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for a wonderful meeting, and we will see you October the 5th for our final meeting. It's in the clerk's hands whether or not it'll be in person or by Zoom. And Tammy is going to use all of her charm to see whether we can get the clerk convinced to do it in person. All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Over and out.
Over and out. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Night.